What's good, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again with Locked On Wizards. The Milwaukee Bucks decided to cut ties with Coach Mike Budenholzer. So, did the Wizards kind of jump the gun on the offseason and maybe lost a chance on a quality head coach? We're going to talk about that and more next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again with my guy, the real Ed Oliver. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. So, as you guys know or should know, the Milwaukee Bucks cut ties with their head coach, Mike Budenholzer. And to me, it's a very questionable move. If real quick, if you look at his record over 5 seasons, he has a record of 271 wins to 120 losses, made the playoffs all 5 years, won an NBA championship, and his playoff record is 38 wins, 23 losses. So, looking at his track record and what he's done in Milwaukee, did the Washington Wizards really jump the gun on the offseason and not really let the market unfold?
I didn't personally. I thought it was questionable to keep Wes Unseld Jr. When you bring in a new GM, I think it's questionable to really keep holdovers. I compared it to, like keeping a quarterback when the new GM or the new owner comes in. They didn't draft him. This GM didn't hire Wes. So it's kind of a weird situation. I'd rather the GM have full control and hire their head coach, hire the guy that they want to control or run their team. But yeah, I do think there's some good candidates. Nick Nurse got fired. Mike Budenholzer now is fired. Ime Udoka was available. The Rockets swooped in and picked him up very quickly. So there was a good, there's a good pool of candidates. There's also Kenny Atkinson is still a guy that's available. That's an assistant head coach. So there's so many good options out there. And I think the Wizards definitely just kind of went with the status quo, just went with what's comfortable at the coaching spot. And of course, the legacy factor, the family factor with Wes Unseld Jr.'s dad. Just being a Wizards legend, the only Wizards MVP, the only championship that the Wizards have. His dad was a super, super huge part of that. So out of respect, I feel like Ted Leonsis is hanging on to Wes and giving him one more chance. And it's kind of a lame duck season. When Troy came on, Troy Halliburton came on, we that's what we call it. It's kind of a lame duck season because, if he doesn't do well, I feel like, they probably will fire him in the middle of the season. Or it's somewhat of a wasted season because you could have got the ball rolling with a new head coach that the GM really, really wants. So, yeah, I do feel like they definitely should have moved on. If they're bringing in a new GM, they just need to start fresh. They needed to clean house. When Ted Leonsis said that they're going to do an outside hire for the GM, I felt like they should have just started fresh and cleaned house. But, of course, they're not doing that. With a new GM, they should have let him have full control and autonomy. But, yes. I think Mike Budenholzer, even though he didn't really make any really adjustments down the stretch. Giannis came out and said that he didn't call a timeout when they really needed it against the Heat. And Giannis is not innocent either. Giannis missed free throws down the stretch, so he's not innocent. And then Mike Budenholzer, even when they did win the championship in the finals, he called a lot of drop coverage. Letting the Suns have easy threes in a couple games. So I do think Mike Budenholzer is a good coach, man. I think he is still a good coach. I mean, like you said, you look at the record and how good he's been as a head coach. I think he certainly would be an upgrade with the Wizards here. I'm not banging on the table for Mike Budenholzer, but yeah, he's done a heck of a job. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Mike Budenholzer was the Atlanta Hawks coach as well. And I know the Hawks. Yeah, he was the Hawks head coach. He coached the team with Kyle Korver, Al Horford, Jeff Teague, Damari Carroll was in the starting five. Who else was in that starting five on that roster? So he helped that roster get to the Eastern Conference Final. He coached that team to get to the Eastern Conference Final. So he's done more with less talent. He's gotten the best out of less talent. Joe Johnson was on the Hawks team as well. So Mike Budenholzer, man, he's been a solid coach. For sure. Dennis Schroeder was on that roster too. So I mean, he's been able to get the most out of lesser talent because that Hawks team was a good team, but they had no superstars on that team, and Mike Budenholzer did a good job of coaching those guys up. So yeah, I would not mind Mike Budenholzer in DC, but we know that's not going to happen.
Man, this
But
highlights.
he did disappoint me in the Heat series. You know, I know there's a lot of times where he could have had Giannis guarding Jimmy, and that didn't happen either. So that's one of the big that's a big adjustment that he didn't make either.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I agree, man. But I don't think he's the sole reason why they lost the series. But I'll say this, man. It's again.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. And Giannis did get hurt too. He got hurt.
Thank you.
And he came back. You know, and then last year they could have if Chris Middleton did get injured last year, I feel like they would have beat the Celtics.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the record. This dude won 271 games, only lost 120. And you fire him. He's been to the playoffs all 5 years. You fire him. He won you a title. When's the last time the Bucks had a title? Let's be real. You fire this guy. It's a questionable move, in my opinion, by Milwaukee. I think he's, you always need a scapegoat. I guess he's it, because they're not gonna go after Giannis because they want Giannis to stay long term. So, easily that's just the casualty in Milwaukee. But what really frustrates me is this: again and again and again and again, we continue to show how incompetent this franchise is, man. 2 years we haven't seen no progress under Wes Unseld Jr. And then not only do you retain him, it's not like they waited a while to see what the market unfolded. Like you said, Nick Nurse. Budenholzer. I mean, they wasted no time. I mean, we're bringing West back. Really? Look, I said it before, man. It is not Washington, D.C. is the reason why people don't come here. It's the franchise why people don't play here, man, because it's incompetent. I mean, you're like you said, if you're going to make changes all the way through. If you're going to get rid of Tommy, you should have let West go. I mean, Mike Budenholzer makes us a better team. Like you said, that Atlanta Hawks team gave the Wizards a lot of headaches, man. I'm just saying. I believe they won what? It was 1 year they won 60 games, 50 games. And like you said, no all-stars. You had Millsap, you had Schroeder, you had a long list of guys, man. And it's just, I mean, look at this record. Nick Nurse is another candidate. How many times are we going to let good coaches go past and we retain the people that are not getting the job done? I mean, how many? And the list goes on. It's not just head coaching. How many draft picks have we? I mean, Halliburton probably cost Tommy his job, but I'm just saying, like, Halliburton. I mean, how many times are we missing opportunities, man? It is so frustrating. I mean, I know a lot of you guys, and I know you feel my pain. It is so frustrating to be a fan sometimes, man. We constantly miss out all the time. I mean, no evaluation. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the hiring process, but it's just, does anybody know what they're doing? I mean, they got John Thompson III looking at draft now. I mean, what's the direction? Again, we're going to the offseason where we're the only daggone team looking for a GM and we're taking our time. It is so incompetent. It's just, it blows your mind. It blows your mind, man. Got me over here sweating. I'm so mad. I mean, it boggles your mind because, again, this is a good coach who can make this team better. Nothing against West, man. But look, 2 years, defense is your MO. Defense hasn't been good. A lot of questions with decisions, a lot of questions with rotations. Like, look, his name alone, he can stay, be an assistant coach. But if you have an opportunity to, one, make an upgrade that make your team better, you take that chance. Two, head coaches bring GMs. Bob Myers sees a head coach like Mike Budenholzer or Nick Nurse. He's a little more comfortable coming into this situation. I mean, that's you have to advertise for who you're trying to hire here, man. It's just, you can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. We didn't sit it all year long, man. It's frustrating. It really frustrated me because it's like you took no time. Oh, we're bringing West back. Like you said, you always go GM then coach. You never go coach and GM. Why is a coach helping with the process of finding the GM? It's going to be his boss. Really? I mean, it makes no sense, man. It makes no sense. And that's why I'm a little worried a little bit, because this offseason so far, Ted Leonsis the only good movies he did was firing Tommy Shepard. Other than that, it's just taking his time, being lethargic about the whole process, acting like he's got all the time in the world. You do not have all the time in the world, man. You don't. So it's just, to me, it was very frustrating to see that, you continue to see coaches and executives that we can hire, and we're just sitting back and, we're rolling with West. I mean, okay. It's just, and that's my biddle, man. It's frustrating because he's not a scrub. I mean, look what he did for Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a small market. You know what I'm saying? He built Milwaukee. He was able to coach. I mean, look, I mean, all right, you can say Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, but outside of that and Bobby Portis, there's always been spare parts around Giannis, man. They've made do with what they've had. And he's done it in 2 stops. Atlanta and Milwaukee. He's dealt with teams where, Giannis is all-star, Drew Holiday, but you're dealing with guys who aren't big time guys outside of Giannis. And he's making it work. I just don't understand it. Yeah, I'm very frustrated because he would have made his team better. And I think that he would have been attractive. He would have made this franchise a lot more attractive for a potential GM, especially if you want to, aim high for like Bob Myers. Because Bob Myers is not going to come in a situation where you got a head coach who, all right, you can argue that the sample size may be a little small, but 2 years. I mean, here's the thing. Here's what the knock on West is, man, is that your MO is defense. Defense ain't good. So, it's like if you got a DoorDash driver who eats the food, are you going to continue to order DoorDash? Nah, you're going to try something else. I mean, I don't understand it, man. It's just continue to do the same thing. And it's just, this is why this fan base is so daggone mad all the time. People get on this, why are you mad? Why do you think, man? Because it's terrible management. Oh, man, I'm sweating over here. It's terrible management. It's terrible. Ted, go back to your office and let other people do the job, man. Just stop. I mean, it's just, man, that's a good coach. We let go, man. We'll let slip through our fingers, man. And it really makes me worried about this offseason because, I don't think we're going to get Bob Myers. This is my humble opinion. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get a guy who's a first-time GM to match with Wes and go from there because, with Ted, his track record with how he handles his franchise and what I've seen for this all season so far, I'm not enthusiastic right now. I'm just being honest, man.
No, I don't blame you at all. I mean, we've seen this story before. It just depends on what Ted, the autonomy gives the GM, but we know that we heard that Wes is going to be helping with the GM search. We'll talk about that later, but Mike Budenholzer, once again, he's a good coach. He won Coach of the Year in 2015, won the Coach of the Year in 2019. He did lead the Hawks to a 60-win record, and he led the Hawks to in the month of January they were 17-0, which was the first 17-0 record in the month in NBA history. So that's really great for Mike Budenholzer. Also, he found a way to get the best out of Brook Lopez. He helped Brook Lopez revitalize his career. Bobby Portis has been great off the bench. So he's done a really good job at utilizing players. And, it's just bringing back Wes with a new GM. I just think it's very questionable. But, yeah, we'll get to we'll talk about the GM search and talk a little bit more about Wes having a say in the new GM. But before we do that, we'll get a quick runner from Brandon.
Yes, sir. I'm going to go ahead and settle down. Let's talk about eBay Motors real quick. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right. First time around, just add your ride to my garage and look for the green check to know how the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home and win when the right parts are guaranteed, right? Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. So, like you said, there was a tweet that Josh Robbins put out, and I'm going to go ahead and read it real quick. It kind of talks about the process of what the Wizards are doing, looking for viable candidates. And it says, the Wizards officials are continuing to compile a list of viable candidates in their search for a new head of basketball operations, league sources told the Athletic NBA. As we reported on April 25th, the team has not and will not hire a search firm. This process is more ownership-led. So, is that the issue? I mean, if we're going to pinpoint an issue with this whole situation, is it the fact that it's being led by ownership the problem? And is that why it's kind of, they're dragging their feet on finding a GM?
Well, the Wizards are typically really slow. They hired a search firm last time, and they contacted 78 people. They contacted Obama. They contacted numerous people, and they ended up with Tommy Shepard out of all those people. So they want to take their time. They took a long time to hire Wes. Like Jason Kidd was hired. Willie Green was hired by the Pelicans, and Jamal Mosley was hired by the Magic. Like so many coaches fell off the board before we finally hired Wes Unseld Jr. I think Ime Udoka was hired that same year too. So there was a lot of coaching candidates, coaching vacancies open, and they took their time, a long time, to end up with Wes Unseld Jr. Once again, we're the only vacancy. It looks like we're gonna take our time again. Once again, the lottery is May 14th. I know the NBA Combine is coming up as well. So there's a lot of scouting things that are coming up where you want your staff to be on the same page. So I think the faster, the better. Once again, are they waiting for Bob Myers? But at the same time, they should be trying to interview guys. Like I said, like I said last episode, Troy said that they already interviewed Milton Newton. And they may have interviewed people, but they're just really trying to keep it under wraps. I can understand why they're trying to keep it under wraps, but it is what it is if they are. So I am getting a little concerned about it because, we just haven't seen them make great decisions and hires. And I feel like they should be aggressive and at least start the process. They should at least start kicking the can down the road. They should at least get the ball rolling on the interview process for sure. What else did he say in the article or in the team when I hired? So the process is more ownership led. And then to answer your question with Ted, so it is being led by Ted and then John Thompson the third. And what's the other guy's name? Is it like Brett Greenberg or something like that?
Yeah.
So JT3 is leading it, and the other guy's name, I think, is Brett Greenberg. They're leading the search. They're doing the interviews. They're the ones that are going to make the decision. So, that we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, what Ramona Shelburne said on the Team 980 show with Craig Hoffman, she said that Wes Unseld Jr. is going to have a strong say in the GM search and the GM hiring. That's a little off to me, and you brought that up earlier. I mean, a coach is going to have a say in the GM hiring. I guess, I understand, like, I know they let Bradley Beal have a big say in everything. So I know they had Bradley Beal's like a GM. They let Bradley Beal pick players, a la Spencer Dinwiddie. There's so many players that Brad had a say in. So it's just Wes Unseld Jr. having a say in the GM. I mean, I think that's questionable as well. A guy that I feel like that they should start fresh with at the coaching position. It's questionable. It's questionable. We'll see. So, I mean, if Wes doesn't like somebody and they're a good candidate, I mean, he could say no because they just disagree in philosophies. If they don't want to if the GM comes in and they don't really want to pick up the pace, or if they want to pick up the pace, but Wes has that slow mindset, then they could disagree and Wes would not want to go there. Or if they disagree on Bradley Beal or et cetera, so it's intriguing. It's intriguing, man. So it just feels kind of backwards to me that Wes is going to have a big say in it. But that's what Ramona Shelburne reported, so we'll see how true that is.
It's funny, man, because one, it is so Wizards, man. You hire an outside firm to turn around and hire a guy that's in the building. And then now that you're looking for a guy outside the building, you're not going to hire a firm. It's just, and then it's funny because they reached out to a former president, Barack Obama. Like, really? Like, oh my, it's funny, man. It really is because number one, look, this is no knock against Wes Unseld, man. Look, I want him to be successful. There's no shade on him. And I'm not hating on him. All I'm doing is spitting facts and I'm evaluating his job, which is my job, right? So I'm going off what I saw. Right? So we're not talking about Phil Jackson here. We're not talking about Pat Riley. We're talking about Wes Unseld Jr., which, no disrespect, is a second-year head coach who has never made the playoffs. So you're letting him lead the charge to go find a GM? What are we talking about? He doesn't have any clout to be able to do that. Like, really? Like, come on. It blows your mind, man. I mean, it blows your mind about this whole process this offseason. Like, I get it, keep it on the wraps, but I mean, you can't keep it too much under wraps because you're not competing against anybody. You're the only team looking for a GM. Like, what's the point of keeping it? I don't understand the point of that. You're keeping the wraps for what? You're not competing against anybody. Like, it's so cartoonish. It's just, I don't know, man. It blows your mind because this whole process is just so sloppy. It's just this is why people don't want to come to DC. This is it. Because you nailed a couple of reasons right there. Wes Unseld being part of the process, Bradley Beal being part of the process. How long are we going to treat a frog like it's a princess, man? Like, come on, man. Bradley Beal ain't the dude. Like, come on. Like, let him be a basketball player. He's not a GM. He's not a scout. Just, just stop, man. Just stop. Let him focus on trying to bring that 3-point percentage back up and stop trying to be GM. I'm just saying, it is so frustrating to be a Wizards fan sometimes, man. It really is, because you're not even getting competent like decisions when you're the only daggone team looking for a GM. We're messing this up. And that's why I think that, and a lot of people, have gotten on me about the vision and the fact that, a lot of my comments have been about building around the solid three, which obviously is not my MO. I'm a rebuild guy. But the thing is, you really, you can't go off of that narrative, because this organization is going to do what they're going to do regardless. And they have it in their mind what they're going to do. And he can try to make changes with time and all this, but I have no doubt they're going to bring the solid three back, because it's just enough to get you to play in the playoffs. That's it, and like you said, like we've always said, who's really going to come to DC? We have tried and missed over the years. How many times are we going to try and miss, man? When John Wall said, bring me Paul George, we should have brought him to DC, but we played around, messed that up. I mean, it's just and then the draft, it goes on and on and on and on, man. And somebody said, well, they got John Wall and Bradley Beal. Who else you going to get when you got the number one pick in a weak draft? Like, you had no choice but to get John Wall. You got John Wall handed to you. That takes no skill. I'm sorry. And Bradley Beal too. I mean, it's abysmal. It is abysmal, because this team just has no vision at all. And they're going to roll with a first-time GM. I'm saying right now, let's prepare yourself. Bob Myers is not coming to DC. Bob Myers shouldn't come to DC. I don't want to waste his time, because until ownership gets their act together and lets the basketball people do their job, we're going to continue to be this laughable, abysmal franchise, man, that people just scoff playing here, man. I mean, you mentioned Bobby Portis, another player we should have retained. We had Bobby Portis. I mean, it's just, how many players are we going to let leave and go somewhere else and be successful? Chris Webber. I mean, what do we get in return? Mitch Richmond? Oh, get out of here, man. I mean, it's just, how long are we going to do this, man? I mean, if you want to make a change, start brand new from the top down. You should have got rid of Tommy. You should have got rid of Wes. And you should have asked people, look, you want to stay? If not, where you want to go? Bradley Beal, where you want to go? You be transparent. You try to be on the hush-hush about the obvious. I expect to see Kyle Kuzma can't be here next year, because we know his MO is an owner, man. So I'm gonna hop off my box, man. But that's where I'm at, man. It's just it's very frustrating to me, to be honest with you.
But yeah, we're gonna wrap this one up tonight. I got the Warriors beating the Lakers tonight. I got them winning in a blowout, so we'll see how that goes tomorrow. But just want to thank you guys for listening. Making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Now, for everydayers, tomorrow on the show we will be grading either Monte Morris or DeLon Wright. So I just had to remember those two guys' names. I mean, sometimes it could be a little it's a long season. So, I was going to say they can be a little forgettable, but I don't want to be disrespectful to Monte Morris and DeLon Wright. So I just want to thank you guys for listening. Once again, Brandon, who do you got winning tonight real quick between the Lakers and Warriors?
Oh, man, that's tough, because, look, Curry's been playing crazy, man. I mean, I got Golden State. Okay. But then you really can't discount LeBron. Mm-hmm. It's just a good matchup. It really is. I think it really comes down to their supporting cast. Can Clay get started? Can Draymond get started? Anthony Davis has been hot. So I'm a roll Golden State, man, but it's gonna be a tough one.
All right. Y'all have a good